Welcome back to another edition of the Coach's Corner. This week is our new edition of the Game of the Week. This week's Game of the Week is Steelers versus Bills. Clayton, what are your thoughts?
Man, when we're really looking at this game, it's exciting because this is a playoff matchup. This is something we might actually get, and this is also playing for seeding, okay? And the Steelers are sitting up there on the 1-2 line, and this is a big deal in terms of for the Steelers because you're looking at, let's break it down. On the Steelers half, you're looking at them, and they're really trying to solidify that bye because what's the big deal about this postseason as opposed to those of past? There's only one bye. Right? The number one seed. Everybody else has to play each other. So when we look at the Bills, on the other hand, we're really seeing them try to prove themselves still yet. People still aren't Bills believers. They're not a believer in this team. They're still pointing at every flaw they make. So on the Bills half, a win over the Steelers would let the fan base know, would let the NFL and the rest of the sporting world know that, these Bills are here to contend. They're not just here to get regular season wins. Granted, it doesn't do anything in the postseason, but build momentum for, hey, we beat a legitimate contender. Because who can you say they've beat now? They haven't got to play Kansas City. They haven't got to play any of those. And their biggest wins have come cross-conference or, in division over the Patriots. But guess what? These Patriots aren't the same Patriots with Tom Brady under center. So that's not the same win. It doesn't carry the same value. So when we're really evaluating this, we're looking at the Steelers coming off a bad loss for them to Washington against the team they were supposed to just thump. Much to Washington's credit, they end up pulling off the upset. How are the Steelers going to rebound? I think this will tell us a lot about them going into the postseason, and I think how the Bills compete and react to the negativity and just the overall hype surrounding this game and the meaningfulness for them. I think we're just going to see a lot from both teams going forward into the postseason because both these teams are making the postseason. That's pretty much a guarantee at this point in the year. So I just think it tells us, like I said, it tells us are the Bills legitimate contenders, and on the flip side, it tells us are the Steelers legitimate contenders, or did they just play? You look at their games, it was like they're getting all the lucky breaks, right? I mean, Jacksonville didn't have Gardner Minshew when they played him, but it was still a close game. It's like, well, what if Gardner Minshew plays? He's supposed to be their number one quarterback. Are they a team that's been – whenever they played Denver, Denver played a tight game with them. Drew Lock gets hurt on the second possession, right? So it's like, is this a team that was just hitting all the right breaks at the right time and they're phonies? Or is this a legitimate title contending team that could pick off Kansas City in the playoffs? And I think both of those – I do think both of them get answered this week.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, I think when you look at this game, the big matchup is how is Josh Allen going to play? You know what I mean? Because the Steelers, they still have a good defense. We've talked about it before on the show. And, we just got done talking about Stephon Diggs. Can he be the guy that they traded for, that they gave up, for fairly significant draft capital for? And I think, big-time players make big-time plays in big-time situations. And I think this is the perfect week for them to do that. And for the the Steelers, it's no secret they haven't been able to run the football the entire year. And what this is a good week to kind of start that trend because you're getting to that point in December and then come January in the playoffs where you're going to want to be able to run the football. To complement that defense, keep them off the field, keep them rested, and when you go to Kansas City or I guess they don't really. As of right now, that Kansas City would be going to Pittsburgh. But, when you play Kansas City, you keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. You don't have to necessarily get into a shootout with them. But, I think this obviously, we agreed this is the game of the week because it feels like the playoffs are upon us. With the weather I have here in Iowa, it certainly feels like the playoffs are upon us. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a pretty classic game. I agree that, not to say that wins don't matter, but the big wins that the Bills have had, like you said, are kind of out of conference wins against NFC teams, and they do matter because of your overall record. But generally speaking, the wins against AFC opponents, specifically within your division, but within your conference as a whole, are important wins because they're the ones that can control some tiebreakers, which have to do with seeding and whatnot. So also, like, I don't think that if a team doesn't get the first round bye, the only thing that's discouraging about that is maybe you trying to get your team healthy again. But as far as home field advantage is concerned, like I don't think that the fans are going to be a big factor just because of COVID. But the big thing is if you're a team that has injuries, can you get that number one seed to try to get healthy before you have to play a playoff game? So, I think it'll be obviously a different setup, different year, but it'll be interesting to see how this game plays out. And I'm sure, all the Chiefs fans are like, please, Buffalo, help us out.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever you mentioned the lack of fans due to COVID, obviously, that's going to play a factor into overall advantage or lack thereof, right? A team like Seattle is great. We've seen greatly affected in their performance at home. So are you losing that? Absolutely. But one thing that gets overlooked, maybe more so than anything, is these are human beings. They enjoy sleeping in their own bed. They enjoy, seeing their family. There's comfort in doing the same thing and showing up to your own stadium, going to your locker, your private locker, not taking a trip the night before, 2 nights before across the country. That's not disruptive. So those are things that are going to play into that people may look at. Obviously, the Steelers and the Bills, that's not much of a flight from Pennsylvania to Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
So maybe not so much that, but if you were evaluating, you see it a lot of times with the cross. So if you see the Bills and the Seahawks play, that plays a factor into their biological clock and things like that. So no, yeah, maybe the fans for the number one seed don't play into it as much, but overall comfort is going to be that, and one of the things that I talked to a former player, got to talking to him, and he said one of the things that a veteran told him that helped ease his nerves whenever they got to playoff time is he said, who wins these games, right? He said the people that come to the game treating it like a game win it because they're comfortable, they're relaxed, they're not overthinking things, they're just playing the thing, they're doing the thing they love to do. The team that shows up thinking it's a playoff game, they're nervous, they're jittery, they're pacing in the locker room pregame, that they get all that nervous energy, they're thinking, they're not crying and reacting to what they're not just playing their game. So down the stretch, I think we're really going to see we're going to see the minuscule details like that because we don't have the fans to blame it on directly, right? So now we've got to attribute, well, what else happened? What else helped this team win? What helped them lose? And I think now is people look at this whole COVID year as a negative thing. I think now we could look at it as a positive and say we've learned more this year about like how football processes work and how NFL teams relax and prepare than we ever have because we can't, you don't have the like we said, we keep saying the home field advantage of the fans. That's always the go-to. Well, now we got to look at something else, right? And now we're learning more than we ever did.
Mm-hmm. And another thing that kind of going off that point that people were talking about was, do you see the end of kind of OTA / minicamp in person and going kind of on the Zoom type atmosphere? Because I mean, defensively, we've talked about that. It's a lot harder getting on the same page defensively than it is kind of offensively. But it'd be interesting to see other changes that are made. But I mean, if you're talking about X factors on the Steelers, I talked about running the football, but what about Big Ben? You know what I mean? Like, how does Big Ben kind of feel about not being able to run the football going into this? Because he has won a Super Bowl, and that year they had the bus. They had Willie Parker. Granted, he was a lot younger, so they kind of needed the running game more, but the defense in Pittsburgh has pretty much always been good. They had a good defense that year, but I wonder what his thoughts are on that.
Man, that's a great point. You want to talk about a guy that's just been everywhere, done it all. Big Ben's kind of overlooked. You think of the Peyton Mannings, the Drew Breeses, and the Tom Brady's of the world, Aaron Rodgers as well. This is a guy that's won 2 Super Bowls, right?
He's
And
won one. He's been to two, but one because the Packers got him.
okay, my mistake.
Wait. No, he's won two. No, he won
right,
two.
yeah.
You're
Okay,
right.
you talked me out of. You talked
Sorry.
me out of it.
Sorry.
No, you're
Sorry.
good. You're good. But he did that in different fashion, right? One, he
Mhm.
had the bus, excuse me, and the second time he had the fabulous ball placement to Santonio Holmes that makes one of the most miraculous. They kind of beat the Cardinals at their own game of throwing it around the yard a little bit, and beat Kurt Warner, right? So
Kurt Warner's an Iowa guy. I wanted the Cardinals to win that.
hey, I was a big Kurt Warner fan because I heard nothing but good things whenever he was at St. Louis. So, and his story is just incredible on his come up and such. But, like I said, you're talking about how does Big Ben feel? Let's talk about the overall experience of Big Ben going into this postseason. You think his 38-year-old, all the injuries he sustained, you think he won't enjoy that week in the lazy boy watching football on Sunday? You don't think his body's going to enjoy that week off? So I think this overall is a massive game for the Steelers overall, and you give a healthy Big Ben is a dangerous Big Ben, and we've seen the career road and home stats, the splits. He's just a different quarterback when he's at home compared to when he's away. That could be said for a lot of people.
Because he gets to sleep on a Sleep Number mattress.
Right, yeah. Sponsor us.
Yes, please.
But yeah, so I think overall we're going to learn a lot about Josh Allen and the Bills, probably more so than we will the Steelers, because the Steelers do have that ace up their sleeve called Big Ben and Mike Tomlin. Just absolute pros. The model of how you coach sustainability and stability, right?
I agree with you. What are your guys' thoughts? Let us know in the comment section. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notification bells, and don't forget to check out other content on the East West Football Network. Thank you.